Get out!
Revenge Files with Nora. File 7. Stephanie. The night my boss announced a promotion at my own celebration party, I smiled. I clapped. I even raised my glass in a toast. But that promotion wasn't mine. After 5 years of late nights, mentoring junior staff, and building the client relationships that generated $8 million in annual revenue, Philip Garrett had given my position to someone who'd been there for 3 months. You heard that right. 3 months. He'd looked me in the eye and said, "You should take notes from Megan. She's already doing more than you." The room laughed. While rage was boiling inside me, I laughed too. But by Monday morning, Philip would discover exactly what happens when you betray someone who built everything you're standing on. Here's what happened. I'd been at Weston & Blake Consulting for 5 years. Started as a junior analyst, worked my way up to operations lead. Not because anyone handed me anything, because I earned it. Midtown Manhattan, 43rd floor. Glass walls, open floor plan, the kind of office that looks impressive in recruiting videos but feels like a fishbowl when you're actually working there. My routine was simple. I started work at 6:30 a.m. and was the last person to leave at 8 p.m. I took on the accounts that no one else wanted to touch, difficult customers, impossible deadlines, fires that needed to be put out at 2 a.m. Philip Garrett was my boss, director of customer service. He was 47, had a corner office, and possessed the confidence that comes from never having heard the word no. For 4 years, he was more than just a boss to me. He was my mentor, someone I trusted, someone who repeatedly told me I was ready for a managerial position. I couldn't find a single reason not to trust him. "Stephanie, you're exactly what this company needs at the leadership level," he'd said just 3 months ago, leaning back in his leather chair. "Keep doing what you're doing. The promotion is coming." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I'd given this company everything. Philip supported and appreciated me. My apartment in Brooklyn Heights cost me $2,800 a month. I could barely afford it, but I stayed because the commute was manageable. 45 minutes on the 2 train if the MTA cooperated, an hour and 15 if it didn't. On Friday evening, I met Jordan Wells at a bar near the office to have a drink. Jordan was the only person I truly trusted at Weston & Blake. We had started work in the same month 5 years ago. We had weathered the same impossible projects together. We complained about the same management mistakes. "You're getting that promotion," Jordan had said last week, sliding a whiskey sour across the table. "Philip's been telling everyone, it's basically official." I smiled. I knew I deserved this. I allowed myself to feel hopeful. That was my first mistake. Megan Holloway arrived 3 months before the party, fresh out of her MBA program, 28 years old. I didn't know her very well yet. Eager, polished, and immediately assigned to shadow me. "Show her the ropes," Philip had said. "She's got potential." So I did. I was never someone who withheld information anyway. I spent weeks training her. Introduced her to our biggest clients. Shared the strategies I'd developed over 5 years. Explained the systems I'd built from scratch. I thought I was being a good mentor. Turns out I was training my replacement. The party was held at a restaurant in Chelsea. Golden string lights, long communal tables, the kind of corporate celebration that's supposed to feel casual but never does. I'd worn my best dress. Navy blue, understated, professional. I'd even gotten my hair done that morning. This was my night. 5 years of work finally paying off. I felt relaxed and safe, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Philip stood at the head of the table, clinking his wine glass with a fork. The room quieted. "Tonight," he began, his voice carrying over the chatter, "I want to recognize someone truly exceptional. Someone who has shown incredible dedication, drive, and talent in just a short time here at the company." My heart pounded. This was it. It's rare to find someone who can make such an impact in only 3 months. Smile faltered. 3 months, Philip turned toward Megan. "Megan Holloway, you have exceeded all our expectations. Your leadership, creativity, and problem-solving skills have impressed us all, which is why I'm thrilled to officially announce your promotion to senior manager. Congratulations." The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen. My fingers clenched around the stem of my champagne glass so hard I thought it might shatter. My throat tightened. My vision narrowed. This wasn't happening. Did he just say 3 months? I forced a smile onto my face, clapped along with everyone else. Watched Megan stand up, blushing, accepting congratulations from colleagues who had no idea what they were celebrating. Philip turned toward me as if suddenly remembering I existed. "And of course, Stephanie," he said, grinning, "you've been such a valuable member of the team. We appreciate everything you do." That was it. A hollow acknowledgement, a participation trophy after 5 years of carrying this department. "Megan absolutely deserves it," I heard myself say, trying to hide the trembling in my hand as I raised my glass. Philip nodded approvingly. "She does a lot more than you already, Stephanie. You should take notes." Laughter. From colleagues I'd helped, from people whose projects I'd saved, from Megan herself, who giggled awkwardly and muttered, "Oh, I wouldn't say that." But the words were already out there, hanging in the air like a slap across my face. I watched in disbelief. No one seemed surprised, as if I wasn't the one who'd worked here for 5 years, who'd been promised things, as if it was Megan all along. I laughed along with them. What else could I do? What would you have done? The rest of the night passed in a blur. I smiled. I chatted. I celebrated someone else's success while my own career collapsed around me. I thought about Philip's compliments, the words that had raised my expectations. This was high-level cruelty, I thought to myself. When the party finally ended and I stepped outside into the cool October air, I stood on the sidewalk for a long moment. My hands were still shaking. Every breath felt like I had to remind myself how to do it. The city buzzed around me, taxis honking, people rushing past, completely unaware that my entire world had just collapsed. The smell of roasted nuts from a street cart mixing with exhaust fumes. I pulled out my phone. My fingers were steady as I composed a short email. Subject: Resignation, effective immediately. Dear Philip, please find my official resignation letter attached. Effective immediately. Best regards, Stephanie Sinclair. I hesitated for exactly 3 seconds before hitting send. As soon as the email left my outbox, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Saturday morning arrived with pale autumn light filtering through my apartment windows. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Philip's voice. Take notes. I made coffee. The ritual familiar, grounding, sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open in front of me. The shock had burned off overnight. What remained was clarity. 5 years. I'd given them 5 years. Late nights. Weekends. Holidays. I'd missed my brother's wedding rehearsal dinner because of a client emergency. Skipped my best friend's birthday because Philip needed me to fly to Chicago for a presentation. And this was the thanks I got. First, I waited to fully grasp the reality of the situation. Yes, what I was facing was completely real. Part of me wanted to call Jordan. Vent. Cry. Have someone tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling this way. But another part of me, the part that had been hardening since the moment Philip said take notes, wanted something else. I wanted leverage. I pulled up my employment contract, the one I'd signed 5 years ago, barely glancing at the fine print because I was so grateful to have landed the job. Section 14.3, Client Relationships and Intellectual Property. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time. All client relationship strategies, frameworks, and methodologies developed by the employee during their tenure shall remain the intellectual property of the company. Standard boilerplate, nothing unusual, but here's what Philip didn't know. The frameworks I'd developed weren't just ideas, they were documented systems, detailed processes, and I'd been smart enough to keep copies of everything I'd created before I shared them with the company. Not the client data. That belonged to Weston and Blake. But the methodologies, the strategies, the systems I'd built from scratch, those were mine, created on my own time, before I was employed. Refined during my tenure, yes, but the core intellectual property predated my contract. I had the receipts, all organized in Google Docs with timestamps and version history. Drafts from before I was hired. Email chains. Documentation that proved exactly what I'd brought to the table versus what I'd developed under their roof. And there was something else. Nathan Prescott. Nathan had been Philip's predecessor, VP of Client Services, the man who'd actually built Weston and Blake's consulting practice into what it was. Philip had forced him out 18 months ago after a power struggle that left the entire company on edge. But Nathan hadn't disappeared. He'd been quietly building something new. Prescott Strategies, a boutique consulting firm targeting the exact same market as Weston and Blake. And 3 months ago, right around the time Philip started hinting about my promotion, Nathan had reached out to me. "I've been watching your work from afar," he'd said over coffee in a quiet cafe in the financial district. "You're too good for Philip. When you're ready to leave, call me." I'd thanked him politely, told him I was loyal to the company. Loyal? What a joke. Saturday afternoon, I called Nathan. "Stephanie." His voice was warm, unsurprised. "I had a feeling I'd hear from you. The offer you made 3 months ago, is it still on the table? Director of Operations, equity stake, full autonomy over client strategy." I closed my eyes. This was it, the decision that would change everything. "I'm in." "Good." I could hear the smile in his voice. "Start Monday, we have work to do." That Monday morning, the office looked different. I calmly walked through the glass doors. My resignation letter had been sent to Philip's inbox 72 hours earlier. He'd had the whole weekend to process it, to panic, to realize what I'd done. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The receptionist greeted me with her usual bright smile. My colleagues were gathered near the break room, chatting over their morning coffee. Megan was sitting at her desk, enjoying her promotion, completely unaware of what was to come. I wasn't angry at Megan. Not really. She hadn't orchestrated this. She'd simply benefited from Philip's betrayal. The real problem sat in the corner office at the end of the hall. The man who had lied to my face for months, who had made me believe I was valued, who had used my loyalty against me and then discarded me like I was nothing. I took my time settling in, placed my bag beside my desk, booted up my computer, checked my email one last time, and then, right on cue, Philip's office door swung open. "Stephanie, my office now." The entire floor went silent. Heads turned. People exchanged nervous glances. No one had ever heard Philip sound quite like that before. Urgent. Confused. Desperate. I stood up slowly, smoothed my blouse, walked into his office without hurrying. The door clicked shut behind me. Philip was already seated at his desk, my resignation letter printed out in front of him. He looked up, eyes scanning my face as if trying to determine whether this was some kind of joke. "You're leaving?" His voice was incredulous, like the concept was impossible to process. "Yes." I sat down across from him, folding my hands in my lap. "Effective immediately. But why?" He leaned forward. "This is so sudden, we didn't discuss this." I let out a soft laugh. "We didn't discuss Megan's promotion either, but here we are." His jaw tightened. "Stephanie, that wasn't personal, she just outperformed you. She's been here for 3 months. I tilted my head slightly. "But sure, if that's what you believe." Philip ran a hand through his hair. The confident, composed director I'd known for 5 years was starting to crack. "Look," he said, his tone shifting. "I appreciate you, right? You've been such an important part of this company. I don't want to lose you." I stared at him for a long moment, taking in the sheer audacity of his words. "You don't want to lose me," I repeated, raising my eyebrows. "But you didn't care that you ignored the promotion I worked for over 5 years. You didn't care that you laughed while I was being humiliated at my own party. And you didn't care that you told me to take notes from a newcomer." His expression shifted, the smugness beginning to crack. "Maybe I made a mistake," he admitted. "Maybe I should have handled it differently, but you resigning out of nowhere? This isn't the right move, Stephanie. You're making an emotional decision." I smiled. There was no warmth in it. My hands were folded in my lap, perfectly still. My voice was calm, measured, the kind of control that comes from having nothing left to lose. "Have you ever felt this way?" I sent that email Friday night, Philip. If this was just emotion, I would have stormed out that same evening. But I didn't. I planned this, and I'm leaving on my terms. His hand curled into a fist on the desk. He wasn't used to losing control. "So what's your plan?" he asked, voice sharp now. "Go to one of our competitors, because I have to remind you, Stephanie, we have non-compete agreements." I laughed. actually laughed out loud. I don't need to go to a competitor. He frowned. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, savoring the moment. Do you remember Nathan Prescott, the VP you forced out over a year ago? Philip tensed. Of course he remembered. Nathan had been one of the company's most valuable executives, but he and Philip had clashed too many times. Philip had orchestrated his removal, thinking he was replaceable. Nathan reached out to me a few months ago, I continued. He's starting his own firm, Prescott Strategies. He wanted me to lead their operations division, director level, full equity stake. Philip's face went pale. I turned him down at first, I said. I was loyal to this company, loyal to you. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice. But Friday night changed everything. I called Nathan right after I left the party. He made the offer again. I accepted. Silence. Pure, unfiltered shock. Philip stared at me like he was trying to process information that didn't fit his worldview. You're leaving for Nathan's company? He finally managed. I start next Monday. He opened his mouth, closed it, exhaled sharply. Stephanie, be reasonable. This company has been your home for 5 years. We can work something out. We can talk about a counteroffer, maybe a different role, maybe I don't want to talk. I interrupted smoothly. This decision is final. His jaw clenched. You won't be able to come back. I smiled. I won't need to. His face darkened. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes, not anger. Fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize you've made a mistake you can't fix. I stood up, straightening my blazer. Just before I reached the door, I paused, turned back. You know, Philip, I said softly, it's funny how you only realize someone's worth when they walk away. And it's equally sad that it took me so long to see who you really are. But better late than never, right? Then I walked out, closed the door behind me, left him alone with the consequences of his betrayal, and it felt incredible. That evening, 3 days after the party, I was sitting in my apartment, packing the last of my personal belongings from the office into a cardboard box. My red coffee mug, a photo of Jordan and me taken at the company Christmas party 2 years ago, a notebook filled with meeting notes I would never look at again. Philip had thought I was replaceable. He was about to learn otherwise. Here's what I knew. I'd spent 5 years building the client relationships that kept Weston and Blake afloat, the Harrington Global account, the Meridian Capital Project, the Sterling Industries retainer, $8 million in annual revenue managed by me, nurtured by me, protected by me, and now I was gone. The question wasn't whether Philip would feel the impact. The question was how long it would take. The first sign that things were falling apart came 2 days after I officially started at Prescott Strategies. My phone buzzed with a message from Jordan. Jordan, Stephanie, OMG, Philip is losing it. Ever since you left, everything's a mess. I smirked but kept reading. Jordan, he had to call an emergency meeting because no one knows how to handle half the things you used to do. Turns out Megan doesn't actually do more than you already. She doesn't even know what she's doing. I laughed out loud. Of course, Philip had overestimated Megan's abilities and underestimated mine. Classic. A second message came in. Jordan, oh, and get this, 3 clients already reached out asking for you by name. When they found out you left, they weren't happy. I felt a rush of satisfaction. Philip had spent years taking me for granted, and now he was learning a lesson he should have learned a long time ago. Some people are not replaceable. That afternoon, while reviewing strategy documents in my new office at Prescott Strategies, my assistant poked her head in. Stephanie, you have a call on line 1. It's someone from Harrington Global. They said they used to work with you and want to discuss moving their account. I blinked. Harrington Global was one of the biggest clients at Weston and Blake, a $4.2 million account, the account I had personally managed for 3 years. Put them through. A moment later, I heard the familiar voice of Thomas Harrington, the CEO. Stephanie. His voice was warm. I heard you moved to Prescott Strategies. I wanted to talk. I leaned back in my chair. Of course, Thomas. What can I do for you? Honestly, things aren't the same since you left. We don't feel like we're in good hands anymore. That new person they assigned us, Megan something, she doesn't understand our needs. She doesn't know our history. I suppressed a smile. Do you think I'm a bad person? If you're leading operations at Prescott Strategies, he continued, we're interested in exploring what that might look like for our account. Within a week, 3 of my former company's biggest clients had reached out to me, all expressing the same frustration. Things aren't the same. We don't trust them anymore. We trusted you. And one by one, they moved their accounts to Prescott Strategies. I wasn't stealing clients. I didn't need to. They were leaving on their own because they trusted me, not the company I used to work for. Not Philip, not Megan, me. And Philip, he was scrambling. Jordan kept feeding me updates. Jordan, Megan is drowning. She's not ready for this role at all. How could she be ready with only 3 months of experience anyway? I heard Philip yelling at the leadership team in a closed-door meeting this morning. Jordan, the board is furious about the client losses. Investors are asking questions. Word is they're putting pressure on Philip to fix this fast. I could only imagine the look on his face. The panic, the regret, and the best part, I wasn't even trying to hurt him. I was just thriving somewhere else. My new office had floor-to-ceiling windows, a door I could actually close, a team that actually listened. For the first time in 5 years, no one was looking over my shoulder. No one was questioning my every decision. No one was taking credit for my work. I finally understood what it felt like to be valued, not just used. During my first leadership meeting at Prescott Strategies, Nathan had turned to me and smiled. Stephanie, I want you to take the lead on our client acquisition strategy. You're the best person for it. Just like that. No begging, no proving my worth over and over again. They already knew my value. I nodded. I'd be happy to. This was how things should be. No games. No politics. Just respect. That Friday afternoon, just as I was finishing up for the day, my phone buzzed with an email from Philip. I raised an eyebrow and opened it. Subject: a proposal. Stephanie, I'd like to have a conversation. I believe we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement. If you're open to it, let's set up a meeting next week to discuss options. Looking forward to your response, Philip. I leaned back in my chair, laughing softly. He was desperate. And for the first time in 5 years, I had all the power. Do you remember a moment when you felt like you were finally in control? I stared at Philip's email for a few moments, letting the sheer irony of it settle in. The man who had dismissed me so easily. The man who had laughed at my expense. The man who had told me Megan does a lot more than you already was now the one reaching out. And I knew exactly why. His world was falling apart. I took my time crafting my reply. No urgency. No desperation. Just calculated control. Subject: a proposal. Philip, I'm available for a brief meeting Monday at 10 a.m. Let me know if that works for you. Best, Stephanie. I hit send and closed my laptop. I wasn't walking into that meeting to negotiate. I was walking in to watch him squirm. I had earned at least this much. At precisely 10 o'clock Monday morning, I walked into the familiar glass office building I had left behind weeks ago. Everything felt different. The fluorescent lights seemed dimmer. The lobby felt smaller, or maybe I was just seeing it clearly for the first time. The receptionist hesitated before greeting me, unsure if I was a guest or a ghost from the past. Employees stole glances as I passed by. They all knew. And then, as I stepped into Philip's office, I saw him. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, a nervous energy in the way he sat, his fingers tapping restlessly on the desk. He wasn't the same arrogant man who had humiliated me weeks ago. Thanks for coming in, he said, forcing a tight smile. I sat down, crossing my legs and placing my hands in my lap. Of course, what's on your mind? He exhaled and leaned forward. I won't waste your time. We need you back, Stephanie. I said nothing. Just let the words hang in the air, heavy with irony. He continued. I underestimated your role here. I'll admit that, but we can make this right. If you return, I'm prepared to offer you a substantial raise, a senior executive title, and full decision-making authority over your department. He sat back, clearly expecting me to be impressed. I wasn't. He clearly noticed that too. I tilted my head. So let me get this straight. You had 5 years to recognize my value. 5 years to promote me, 5 years to respect my work. I let that sink in before continuing, but instead, You passed me over for someone with 3 months of experience, told me to take notes. And now, after losing key clients and watching your company spiral, suddenly you're offering me everything I deserved all along. Philip's jaw tightened. Stephanie, come on. I held up a hand, stopping him. Let me ask you something. If I never left, would I be sitting in this chair right now? Would you have given me this offer out of appreciation? Or are you only doing it now because you're losing control? His silence said everything. He tried to mask it, but I saw it in his eyes. The truth. He never saw my worth until it cost him everything. I let out a small, amused laugh. That's what I thought. Philip's desperation broke through. Stephanie, be smart about this. You have history here, a future. Do you really want to throw away all the hard work you put into this company? I smiled. Philip, you still don't get it, do you? I stood up, smoothing my blazer, and leaned slightly forward. I never needed you. You needed me. And now you're finally realizing that. His face darkened, but I could see it, the flicker of panic behind his eyes. I turned, walking to the door, but paused just before stepping out. You should take notes, Philip, I said softly, echoing his own words back at him. Maybe next time you'll learn to value the people who actually make your company run. Then I walked out. And this time, I never looked back. It felt even better than I had imagined. Back at Prescott Strategies, things were thriving. Our client roster had nearly doubled in 3 months. More and more companies were leaving Philip's sinking ship and turning to us. Nathan had been right. The market was ready for something new, something better, and we were building it together. My office overlooked the Hudson River. Some mornings, I'd arrive early just to watch the sun rise over the water, coffee in hand, thinking about how different everything looked from this side of the glass. 5 years at Weston & Blake, and I'd never had a window. Now I had a wall of them. 3 weeks after my meeting with Philip, Jordan sent me the update I'd been waiting for. Jordan, it's official. Philip just got fired. I stared at the message for a long moment. Jordan, the board forced him out. They couldn't recover from all the client losses. Harrington Global was the last straw. When Thomas Harrington publicly announced they were moving to Prescott Strategies, the investors lost confidence. Jordan, Philip cleaned out his office this morning. Security escorted him out. It was brutal. I leaned back in my chair, processing the news. Part of me expected to feel triumphant, vindicated, maybe even a little smug, but mostly I just felt tired and relieved and oddly sad. I stood by the window, looking out at the city. 5 years of my life, all those late nights, all those sacrifices, none of it was wasted. It had brought me here. It had made me stronger. Not for Philip. He'd earned his consequences, but for the version of myself who had spent 5 years believing that loyalty and hard work would be enough. That version of me had been naive, hopeful, trusting. She was gone now, replaced by someone sharper, someone who understood that respect isn't given, it's demanded. Philip's LinkedIn updated that afternoon. Director of Client Services at Weston & Blake Consulting vanished. No replacement title. No seeking new opportunities, just blank. By the end of the week, the company had released a brief statement. Weston & Blake Consulting announces a leadership transition. Philip Garrett has departed the organization to pursue other ventures. We thank him for his contributions and wish him well in his future endeavors. Corporate speak for fired, fast, no fight. I heard through the industry grapevine that he'd started interviewing at smaller firms. Mid-level positions, places that would have been beneath him 6 months ago. Turns out reputation travels, and Philip's reputation now included lost $8 million in client revenue in 60 days. Not a great selling point. Megan didn't last much longer. Without me to train her, without the client relationships I'd built, she was exposed. The board saw what Philip had seen too late. She wasn't ready. Maybe she never would be. 3 months after Philip's departure, Megan transitioned to a different role. Corporate speak for demoted. Jordan kept me updated on everything. The leadership vacuum, the remaining clients questioning their contracts, the junior staff looking for exits, the emergency board meetings, the consultants brought in to assess the damage. Every update felt like vindication, not because I wanted to see people suffer, but because it proved what I'd known all along: I wasn't replaceable. I wasn't redundant. I wasn't whatever Philip had tried to make me believe I was. The company I'd given 5 years of my life to was unraveling, and I hadn't done anything except leave. That was the irony Philip never understood. I didn't destroy Weston and Blake. I just stopped holding it together. 6 months after I walked out of that promotion party, I stood in front of my team at Prescott Strategies, presenting our quarterly results. 16 new clients, $12 million in projected annual revenue, a team that had doubled in size, recognition from 3 industry publications as a consulting firm to watch. Nathan caught my eye from across the room and nodded, a simple acknowledgement, but it meant more than 5 years of Philip's empty promises ever had. After the meeting, I walked back to my office. The sun was setting over the Hudson, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the city buzzing 40 stories below. I thought about the woman who had stood on that Chelsea sidewalk 6 months ago, trembling with humiliation, composing a resignation email on her phone. She felt like a stranger now, someone I used to know. My phone buzzed, a text from my brother, David. "Mom says you're coming to Sunday dinner finally. She's making your favorite." I smiled. For the first time in years, I had weekends, actual weekends, time to visit family, time to exist outside of work. I typed back, "Tell her I'll bring wine." "David," she says, "bring yourself. You've been a ghost for 5 years. He wasn't wrong. I'd miss so much. Birthdays, holidays, my nephew's first steps, all because I was loyal to a company that saw me as disposable, but not anymore." My nephew's birthday was coming up next month. This time, I would be there. This time, I wouldn't have to check my email every 5 minutes or take a call from a client in the middle of cake. This time, I would just be present. Ever again? Some lessons you learn the hard way. Here's what 5 years of misplaced loyalty taught me. Loyalty is a two-way street, and if you're the only one walking it, you're not loyal. You're trapped. Make the necessary preparations from the very beginning to avoid falling into that trap. For 5 years, I let Philip determine my worth. I waited for his approval, his praise, his permission to succeed. And when he decided I was worth less than someone with 3 months' experience, I believed him. I believed him in a terrible, humiliating moment. Never again. I know what I bring to the table now. I know what I've built, what I'm capable of, what I'm worth. And if someone can't see that, they're lost. Literally. If you're watching this and you've ever been passed over for someone less qualified, I want you to understand something. Their decision says nothing about your value. It says everything about their judgment. My name is Stephanie Sinclair. I'm the Director of Operations at Prescott Strategies. I manage a team of 23. I oversee $12 million in annual client revenue. I have equity in a company that values my contributions. Betrayals don't break you, they reveal you. They show you who you are when the people you trusted let you down. Never outsource your worth to someone else's approval. Do you agree? Share your thoughts in the comments. The full red file playlist's waiting, or discover other color files for more office revenge. See you in the next file.